Well, welcome, Tim. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
being with us.
My pleasure.
Why don't you start us off by just telling us a little bit about you? Who are you, Tim, and what is your background?
Sure. Well, I have spent most of my career in manufacturing and operations leadership.
Okay.
So I started out as an engineer and made my way up into supervision and finally management, and eventually larger groups that I was leading in operations leadership roles.
Okay.
So I have about 20 years of experience in operations leadership. The last 8 years I've focused on continuous improvement, coaching, instructing, mentoring in business environments, so helping businesses to improve their outcomes, their business performance.
Oh,
So
that's wonderful.
So that I felt was great experience to lead me toward this role.
Right.
So about a year ago, I found myself through a downsizing event. I was unemployed and decided I was not going back to corporate America. And started
Broke the chains free.
I broke the chains free, yes. And so I decided, well, I need to do something on my own. So the first thing that came to mind was going into some sort of consulting gig, probably related to continuous improvement. But then I ran up against, all these barriers with starting a business from scratch. It's very difficult, overwhelming, scary. So I started looking at franchises and learned a lot about how franchises can be a much faster path toward having a business that's up and running and successful.
Right.
And then in the process of exploring franchises, I bumped into franchise brokers, started talking to some friends of mine about, hey, what might that look like? And started talking to different organizations and finally landed here with the Franchise Brokers Association. So, and was just really impressed with the caliber of the people, the high standards, high expectations for the brokers, and aspiring to be really the elite level of brokers in the industry. And also thought this was a terrific fit for me in terms of my skill set, both in understanding how to run a business, but also understanding how to coach and develop people, and how to tap into people, help people recognize what they're good at, what they're not so good at, and then leverage their strengths toward a career where they can be successful.
Right.
So,
well, that's a wonderful background to enter this business with. And
it feels like it, yeah.
Yeah, well, because so much of what we do day to day is helping people understand, what they would be exceptional at. A lot of times people will talk about, being, I think the way that most people operate is that they try to be okay at a lot of things.
Generalist.
Generalist.
Yeah.
Instead of really being exceptional at the things that they're gifted at and the things that they were, born with those talents. And so it seems like what you're saying is that you're helping people to know what those talents are that make them truly exceptional. And nobody wants to be just average. Like, come on, we don't want to be average. We want to be great.
Absolutely.
And so your coaching experience, were you helping kind of not just figure out what their talents were, but were you also helping them to build the team around them to leverage those talent so that everybody on the team was succeeding?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, a lot of what I did was team building, so helping each individual identify their unique talents, and then, okay, how do we as a team pool those skills and create a team that's as effective as possible, and that in an environment where everybody is doing what they do best every day, ideally.
Right.
And that's what I found most rewarding. And then also really rewarding was just seeing people succeed and seeing them take their skills and abilities to another level, to see them advance, and see their careers bloom. So I really am looking forward to continuing that experience in this role, and helping aspiring business owners to be successul, and to realize their dreams. So I think it's
like perfect. It's so perfect. I can't even take it.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
So, how would you say you do that as far as like assessing somebody and figuring out what makes them exceptional? What are the kind of tactics, or what are the kind of the ways that you make that realization about them?
Yeah, sure. Well, I obviously start with asking them their own impression of, what do you love to do?
Yeah.
Because typically people only love to do things that they're really good at.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good point.
And that is a good indicator that somebody has some talent, some skill in a certain area. And that includes hobbies, things they do outside of what might be their current work world. Because often people are passionate about things that they don't bring to work with them. And sometimes you can find ways to draw on those talents as well.
Right.
But then obviously there are tools out there, such as the Zoracle Spot On tool that we use to help identify, okay, what are this person's values, what's their work style, because that tells you a bit more in a little more detail, but looking at it differently, what somebody is naturally good at, or what they enjoy, and what they don't.
Right.
So
I think that going through that process is always really enlightening for clients who are, looking at buying a franchise, because they didn't realize that they would be good at these things, or they didn't put the correlation together as to like, here's my background and here's how I profile and here's what kind of franchise would make sense for me and would be a best fit for me. So that process of using tools like that just makes a big impact on them and their knowledge base of how do I proceed so that I can become the success and the exceptional person within that role.
Sure. And it can also point to hidden talents where somebody has an aptitude for something, but they've never really explored it. So somebody who's an achiever may not realize that they're really driven to win. But in entrepreneurial opportunity, that might really come out and be useful to them.
That's a really good point, because I don't know how many times I've seen the profiles and assessments come back where they'll score like through the roof on a particular trait that they never worked in that, they never tested it, there's no experience, but all of a sudden they score like out of the charts on this particular thing. And so when I share it with them, they're like, wow, I had no idea. That's a great point. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah. Aptitude.
Well put.
And there are things that you can teach people and that they can learn on their own. There are other things that are almost impossible to teach, right? So if you don't have strong interpersonal skills, I'm going to have a tough time teaching you that, right? But if you've got that piece and you lack maybe a good understanding of the financials, we can teach you that. You can learn that, right?
Yeah.
So if you have the right raw materials and then you have some aptitude for learning the other things that you don't know well enough yet, that's fine. You can still be successful.
Oh, that's good news. That's very good news.
Yeah.
So when you're working with clients as a franchise broker, you have these tools that help them kind of assess that. And then there's also the process of self-discovery too, and them figuring out, okay, what do I want to do? What am I going to be most successful at? So, Tim, how would you say you match up opportunities with people that are good for that?
Sure. Well, first of all, looking at their interests, right? What are their passions? What are they really intrigued by? What things do they really want to explore more deeply? So oftentimes these might be things that have nothing to do with their past career, but it could be, something they're really interested in. I personally am really interested in early childhood education, but I haven't done that before from a career standpoint. But boy, I'd love to learn more about, an entrepreneurial opportunity related to that. I would find that really fascinating and I think rewarding.
Aww.
So I think finding out what their passions are is one of the first steps. Understanding their values, which the Zoracle will help us to do. And their values, I think, really have to connect clearly with an opportunity, something that speaks to them, that where every day they're going to be living in a way that resonates with their values, right? That feels meaningful to them and that inspires them.
Right.
And then, of course, looking at, financial capabilities, but we have resources at our disposal to help us with, if someone thinks they can only afford a business at a $150,000 level, we might be able to help them expand that horizon and realize, oh, look, I can actually invest in something that costs a little bit more, but that has greater opportunity down the road to result in the kind of wealth that I'm looking for at the end of my career.
Right. So you take more of a holistic approach, not just what they're trying to replace right now, but really, what do they want to make long term?
Absolutely.
Because it's not okay just to, or it's not the person's goal just to replace now.
No.
Tell me about that.
I don't feel like most entrepreneurs are going to just get into a business and 5 years later, sell it off and walk away. I think once you get bit by the bug, you want to do more. You might want to add another unit or another 3 units, or you may want to add a different business to your portfolio, right? Once you've built up some capital. So, somebody who's 40 years old looking at a franchise opportunity should be thinking about, okay, how might the next 25 years play out? And how might that be just a fantastic career path for me?
Right.
In the long run.
Right. And using it as a wealth creation asset, or
absolutely.
A vehicle, rather.
Yeah, absolutely. Set me up for retirement.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you said bitten by the bug. I think it is hard to go from corporate America, then to entrepreneurship, and then back to any kind of corporate America again, because once you experience that control and freedom, it's hard to revert back to another lifestyle.
Yeah, I can't say that I can think of an instance where that has happened. I'm sure it has, but I don't know anyone that's done that, And I certainly am not going back to my corporate gig. So
yeah, for people who are potentially in corporate America now and are thinking about going into franchise ownership or entrepreneurship, what would you say to those people?
Well, I would say to them that, like me, they might have a false sense of security, right? It feels so good to have that paycheck coming in every 2 weeks, right? And it feels really good up until the point where your job is eliminated and you didn't see it coming, and there's a merger, between your company and another, and 1,000 jobs are cut, and yours happens to be one of them. So corporate America may not be as secure as it seems to be. And on the other hand, there are more and more entrepreneurial opportunities opening up in the United States in particular, and it's just a flourishing environment for people who want to start a business.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just aren't aware of that. They're all they know is what they know, and that is a regular job working for a big company. So I think it's an eye-opening experience, and I think that's part of my role, is to help educate people and help them to see, okay, here are the facts about this type of business in this demographic and the opportunity that lies in that business model.
Wow. That's good to know. It's very good to know that there are opportunities beyond what they even thought of.
Yeah.
As far as your interest in the different franchises that you work with, I know that there's good franchises out there, and we focus on, good franchises and knowing those good franchises. Can you just talk to us about why you're passionate about good franchises?
Well, first I want to say I'm really excited about our relationship with Franchise Grade. I think that's going to be so helpful and useful as a tool to not only identify the best franchises out there, but help other people to educate themselves about those opportunities. The reason I'm passionate about working with great franchises is because they can make the experience for an entrepreneur so much more enjoyable and fun and not as stressful and scary, and help them to gain confidence that, yeah, I can make this work, and this model exists for me, and all I need to do, not all I need to do, but I need to follow the playbook, right? I need to work the process the way it's intended, and it's been proven to be successful. I need to stay the course and run it by the book and see what happens. And of course, like any business, finding the right people to support you is critical, right? So choosing who's going to come and work for you is absolutely crucial. But the best franchises can help you with those things as well. Help you identify, okay, what kind of talent do you need? What skill set do these people need to have to be successful doing this work? So
one of the common themes that I've been hearing you say kind of relates back to what your experience is, and that you were in operational leadership. And in the discussions that you and I have been having, I've been hearing those kind of leadership tones. And when we're in this process, we're helping people we're kind of leading them, but we're leading them to be the leader. So can you just talk a little bit about that process and that experience of building leaders?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I grew up in a small business family. So my father owned and managed and led several different small businesses while I was growing up. So I got to see firsthand what it looked like to have, my hero, my dad, be a successful small business owner.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so he was kind of my first role model from a leadership standpoint. And so I've always tried to learn about, okay, what does leadership look like, and then how do you apply leadership in a practical way to lead an organization to success. So I feel like I'm in a really good position to be able to coach and advise aspiring business owners to kind of embrace that role, and be a leader and be the boss, right? But be so in a collaborative and humble way, because we're all learning as we go, right? You're going to stumble. You're going to make mistakes. That's okay, right?
Yeah.
Even leaders make mistakes, and just expect it and dust yourself off and move on. So as a leader, you can't expect yourself to be perfect.
Right.
You have to just be able to muscle through the struggles.
I feel like the work environment has changed so much. Our current culture and the way management and leadership used to be done to where it is today, it's very different. It's much more collaborative. So when you're talking about that collaboration, do you think that you could help franchisees when they're running their business to understand what those collaborative styles should be so that they can be most successful and your clients can be really successful running their businesses?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I hope to bring to the table that's maybe different than other franchise consultants or brokers, is kind of taking it beyond just the deal,
right?
But also advising and coaching and helping with getting started and getting off on the right foot and being successful from the get-go. So
when you're going through the process with clients, prospective franchisees, and you're being that sounding board for them and helping them to ask good questions and helping them to spot the things that they maybe wouldn't see without the experience, you're kind of already build that bond and you already have like a relationship where they trust you and they want your insight and input. And so continuing that afterwards, I think, is something that really does make you different as a broker. And we just appreciate you wanting that for them and caring enough about them to make sure that happens. So thank you so much, Tim, for being that kind of broker.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you for being on with us.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.